Well, long time no see. We took a week off and here we are again, happy and healthy, going over Survivor to Rent episode 6 and 7, Behind the Mind, with the one and only Samuel Pickett.
How's everyone doing today?
Man, we're feeling great. We're ready to go. Sam has already watched the episode and he's took plenty of notes. He's here to analyze it for you and ask the questions that you want to know. I'll be explaining the creative decisions behind making the game and also the editing decisions behind the episode. Then we'll be giving away the award for the player of the episode. After that, I'll deep dive with a special cast member from the episode in a segment I like to call 1 year later, discussing where their life is at now, post Battle of the Best. And finally, some deleted scenes, clips that couldn't make it into the episode here just for you to see. And it goes without saying, spoiler alert, if you have not watched this week's episode of Battle of the Best, you're about to be spoiled. 3, 2, 1, let's go, Behind the Mind.
So, episode 6 is insane. We see a lot of creative choices that happened in this episode.
To put it lightly.
Starting off, we hear a lot of deals being made. We see the results of looting the body.
Gabe loots the body from Cameron. Gabe chose the right rock. He beat Dylan and Peyton. Because of that, Gabe gets a cursed double vote advantage and a cursed idol.
With that, Gabe decides to let some people in on half of what he got. Letting some people know, hey, I got this idol in a lockbox, don't think I can use it yet, and I have a double vote. From there, we move along to our challenge, the memorization heat race.
We kind of thought out a little bit of the pattern of how we were going to set up this challenge as far as making it more confusing and difficult for the players, whether it was color syncing or just randomization or making the same objects appear and over. This challenge was simple to set up. It's also a Survivor classic. This sort of challenge does appear in multiple seasons of Survivor. We don't very often have challenges appear in Survivor to Rent that are replications of the television show's challenges. And this was one of the few that we've had, and it was really cool to replicate it. It's something I wanted to do for a while.
We see Ronnie win Heat 1, Mason Heat 2, and TSL win Heat 3, but immunity goes to Mason. Afterwards, gathering everyone up, our fearless leader of a host let everyone know that there was a new addition to the formerly winning camp. The water was gone, left, and in its place was a lockbox.
Yeah.
Now, this is not the first time a lockbox has appeared in Survivor to Rant. Reactions to it showed. We had Survivor to Rant veterans like Mason and Nate, who kind of got a little 1,000-yard stare at the mention of a lockbox. And then we had Kirk, who full sprinted straight to it. How did that make you feel, seeing the mixed reactions from that?
Man, I got the reactions that I wanted. Everyone knows what a lockbox means in Survivor to Rant. And Kirk, who is, kind of desperate at this point in the game, needs something. He definitely does not feel in control. He definitely feels like he's in an alliance that is keeping him safe, but he isn't in control of the alliance. And he wants to get some agency in the game. And so this lockbox means opportunity for Kirk. And so he sprints for it, and he beats everyone there with his 6'5" figure and lengthy long legs. I think he beat everyone there by 2 or 3 years. A lockbox was first introduced in Survivor to Rant way back in season 4. And how it came about was I realized after my first 3 games that once players have won immunity, they will sit there and do nothing. After seasons 2 and 3 specifically, I tell them, hey, there's this treasure hidden at your camp. It's called the Hidden Immunity Idol. Typically, after I've seen it in seasons 2 and in seasons 3, the winning tribe, they will work together to find this hidden immunity idol. So it's the tribe's hidden idol. And after that gets found, as a tribe, they know where it is. Then they have nothing else to do. I remember tribes sitting there on a log for 30 minutes to an hour, just waiting, doing nothing, being so bored, waiting for the losing tribe to hurry up and finish their tribal councils. And so I was like, I have to do more. I have to introduce more things into the game. For me, the answer to that was a lockbox. What I also remember realizing in season 4 was that the winning camp would also work together to unlock the lockbox, even after I publicly announced this is not something to work on together. I would bring back the lockbox in almost every season in a different fashion and change it up a little bit. The players also kind of knew that with the lockbox, especially in seasons 4 and 5, the lockbox meant Pandora's box was going to be in the game. And so I wanted to kind of do this homage to the players of saying, hey, Pandora's box might be in the game again. And when Kirk got the box open, they found out it was. So Kirk gets the box open after sitting there
and trying 1,800,062 different combinations, approximately.
And everyone thought the combination was going to be something significant. They remembered back to the combination learned and the Netflix and Chill challenge, and they added the numbers up together, which was a complete troll. The answer could be found at the camp, at the respective camps. There were numbers scattered throughout at camps. We put them there as they were doing this heat challenge, as they were running and doing this memory challenge. We hid the numbers, and they were large numbers. They were like the size of my hand. Nobody looked for them. They just ran straight for the box. And so when Kirk finally went through 600 different combinations and he found this obscure number and unlocked the box, it says on the advantage that was inside Pan B. Of course, he knows that the other one is Duo and Roz X, together making Pandora's box when you read it correctly. It says on there, this is an advantage in the final immunity challenge. And now Kirk knows that Pandora's box is in the game.
It's the only thing he finds, isn't it?
It's not the only thing he finds.
We get our third episode of The Hunt with Kirk Carlson, Rock and Roll Edition.
Yeah.
That was quite the change up in music. What made you decide to go with a little bit of a heavier mix?
It was super appropriate. An event like this didn't need the clumsy, comical music that we were getting before. You know, the first 2 times of The Hunt with Kirk Carlson, it is a time of comic relief, and Kirk is saying these funny things. But now we see Kirk find something that gives him great power in the game, and so something like that deserves appropriate music. And this is Kirk's rock and roll moment. This was Kirk's edgy moment.
And Kirk, in fact, finds one of the most powerful things you can find in Survivor.
Yeah.
He finds a hidden immunity idol.
And like Kirk said, you know, he finds an idol and an advantage in the same round, and now he does have agency in the game. He can start to climb up this muddy slope, dig his heels in, and say, now you guys are going to listen to what I want to do.
And to quote Kirk himself during the intro to The Hunt with Kirk Carlson, I'm back, bitches. We see a lot more conversations between the players. We hear Mason and Ronnie talking about the trio of Ryan, Gabe, and Peyton. We hear Gabe, Peyton, and Dylan chatting, Ronnie and Ryan, and ultimately that brings us to Tribal.
Well, before we get to Tribal, I do also want to bring up the best troll of this episode. A good flashback scene of Taylor finding the key on Fiddlefoot way back in episode 1. The very first immunity challenge, we hand the winning tribe, the Athena tribe, the Fiddlefoot immunity statue, which has a key attached. And we see in the flashback Taylor noticing the key, and she will pocket that key. And I purposefully did that knowing that eventually in the game, when this locked idol comes up, someone is going to think that that locked idol and this key coincide with each other. And I purposefully did that just to mess with the person who finds that key, knowing that for the whole game, they are going to be thinking, what does this key go to? And it didn't go to a dang thing.
The troll.
The troll.
I mean, come on. Why would you trust something from a troll?
And it was significant. We did that exact thing way back in season 4, and you can't do the same thing twice. So this time it was just to make TSL think she had the key to all of Gabe's problems.
Or the key to cause Gabe some problems.
Yeah, because she did talk about voting him out, looting his body to get that idol because she has the key to it.
Why work with someone when you can just steal their shit?
Yeah.
So we get to Tribal Council. What we hear first is the shifting vote topic. Who do you want to give an disadvantage to in the next immunity challenge? Why a disadvantage? Why Who do you want to not participate? Who do you want to sit out?
I thought about who do you want to have a giraffe in the next immunity challenge, but it just didn't fit. It's hard to get a giraffe. I think that forcing someone to sit out of an immunity challenge is just too crazy. That's coming from me and my wacky ideas. I don't think it's fair. I think that in a game of Survivor, a person always has the right to vote and always has a right to save themselves in immunity challenge. Now, those are things that you can choose to gamble and give up through other means. But to have a shifting vote topic that immediately made it to where someone couldn't vote or made it to where someone didn't have the right to fight for their safety, it just didn't sit well with me. And we'll see whenever we cover episode 7, even something like this of giving someone a disadvantage in the next immunity challenge was purposely put in to later on circumvent this particular shifting vote topic. So in this instance, we put in who do you want to have a disadvantage in the upcoming immunity challenge. It seemed pretty fair, pretty straightforward, and it gave the players a chance to cripple the person who they perceived as the biggest challenge threat.
And the person, as it is revealed to us, chosen for that disadvantage is Mason. The council itself, who wants to move to Ninja? And we do see the Ninja moved from Kirk to Peyton to Kirk.
Kirk stealing 2 fire tokens. Because if you notice, in this episode, whenever Kirk was talking with Taylor, when he was unlocking the lockbox, Taylor offers to give Kirk 2 fire tokens to move the ninja. And then, after Kirk finds the idol, he has a little talk with Nate and says, I need to move the ninja. And Nate's like, well, I'll give you 2 tokens if you don't move it to me. At Tribal Council, Kirk's like, I found 2 tokens. I get to move the ninja. Taylor believes that the 2 tokens he found came from her.
And
Nate believes that the 2 tokens he found came from him. And so Kirk gets to pocket 2 tokens out of the deal.
The theft.
The brilliance.
The utter theft.
They'll never know.
Until now.
Yeah.
We see Gabe has convinced somebody to use the cursed idol. Peyton comes up looking for some immunity. His best buddy gave it to him. How can he worry at all? I mean, this is a bromance written for the ages. Until you unlock the cursed idol to see that Kirk Carlson is the one who's immune. And every vote for Kirk Carlson goes straight on to Peyton.
Yeah, the blind side of the century. Gabe gave Peyton a straight up Judas kiss of death. I knew before I even started editing, in my head, I had this vision of how I wanted this tribal to look. So I knew from the very beginning, before I even started editing, that I was going to edit it the way that I wanted to. I wanted to have this montage of clips of Peyton and Gabe doing all their friendly stuff and being super close and all the things they did together and being best friends and playing a nice little song in the background, setting the mood of just friendship, and then boom, knife to the heart. I didn't have an idea of everything of what I wanted to do, but that was one of the first ideas I had from the very beginning, and I was very pleased with the result that I was able to execute what I had in my head to you, the audience.
When I was watching it, all I could think of was, those old Adopt a Puppy commercials where they're singing, In the Arms of the Angels. That's Peyton.
Yeah,
Peyton was in the arms of the angels that day.
He got stabbed deep and twisted the knife in the heart. He was very hurt. We hear him say as he was leaving, I got played. He was hurt, and rightfully so. I don't think anyone's seen it coming. Nobody could have foreseen that coming. Something like this makes players equal, whether this is your first or second game or your 8th game.
Everyone was definitely on their toes if you look at their facial expressions. I thought Kirk Carlson was about to just lose his lower jaw.
Yeah. I mean, if you notice, about every episode, Kirk's jaw's on the floor at some point. We could have a montage of that, of Kirk's jaw just hitting the ground.
But now, it's time to award our player of the episode.
I would say for this episode, the person I believe earned the title player of the episode was in fact Gabe. Gabe did something nobody would ever have expected him to do. Gabe has always played a Survivor game that was straightforward, friendly, and very sportsmanlike. And he turned around and did one of the nastiest moves Survivor Durant is seen, stabbed his best friend through the heart, twisted the knife, and gave him a kiss on the cheek goodbye.
Do you think it was good gameplay that he did that to Peyton?
On one hand, he lost his closest ally. On the other, he opened himself up to the trust of others. There was people who wanted Peyton out, and as we see, we have seen Peyton's name get brought up a few times in previous episodes. We see Peyton's name get brought up in this episode. By doing and conducting the move that gets Peyton out and saves Kurt Carlson, Gabe prepares himself and basically hands himself on a silver platter to the alliance of TSL and Kurt Carlson and Ryan, who, as we have seen previously, is like the Corleone family from The Godfather. And suddenly, Gabe saved one of their kingpins and got rid of one of the people they wanted to get rid of, all on his own. I think, from that point of view, it was a brilliant move.
I can see that. I also think that taking out Peyton helps, like you said, the Kingpins, Taylor and Kirk, helps them more than it helps Gabe. I think Peyton would have been after Taylor before he would have been after Gabe. Gabe's initial concern and reason why he took out Peyton was because he was concerned that Peyton and Mason were working together. He brought up that every time he would try to make a play with Peyton, Peyton would make sure that Mason was safe. He was like, yeah, I think we can get Mason on board for this. So even if they weren't working together, Peyton really made it look like he was on the same page with Mason at all times. So I can understand Gabe's concern that there is a possibility that they are on the same page and I need to break up this duo. But at the same time, maybe he should have done that to Mason instead of Peyton when Peyton was so loyal to Gabe. My vote doesn't count. But for me, I think my player of the episode was Kirk. Finding an idol and getting an advantage in the same round, that's hard to beat. He also did have an idol played on him, so he must be doing something right socially with Gabe for Gabe to want to save him. So I think that for me it was Kirk. But congratulations, Gabe. You have the most powerful move in Survivor Durant's history under your resume. That will never be taken away from you. We are now immediately going to jump in to episode 7's Behind the Mind. Sam, take it away.
We see immediately the fallout of Gabe's move. Nobody knows what happened, why it happened, how it happened, and for what reason. Ronnie, who up to then had also been pretty buddy-buddy with Peyton and Gabe, doesn't know where any trust can lie. We see Mason wondering basically the same thing.
Yeah, I think Ronnie was pretty astonished at the play, but Ronnie did know about the play. Ryan told Ronnie what Gabe's idol did before he played it. If anything, Mason was very taken aback, maybe borderline offended at Gabe's play. Maybe Mason was just trying to come up with his own logical reasons of why it made sense for Gabe to do that. You know, you can't always see the game from another player's shoes, and that play might have made the most sense to Gabe's mind and not to someone else's, and that's okay. If Gabe thought it was best for Gabe, then in his mind it made the most sense. Maybe Gabe just wanted to make a flashy move regardless of the outcome, and he knew that he could pull it over with Peyton. But now that's one less ally that Gabe has, and now because of it, we also hear and see back at camp, people are starting to question Gabe. Like now, Dylan, Gabe's next closest ally that he feels closest to, Dylan is now putting Nate above Gabe on the pecking order and saying that Gabe needs to go sooner than expected.
Some people, on the other hand, are happy to have seen that move. Taylor's happy with how that entire tribal played out.
Yeah, you're right. It did make Taylor happy that Peyton was gone. She wants to get rid of winners, but she wants to get rid of the winners specifically that she doesn't trust or feel close to. So she's keeping Nate around and she's keeping Kirk around. She considers Kirk one of the winners. She's keeping them because she feels a trust with them and feels close with them. So Peyton was just another winner on the list of the people she couldn't trust.
Afterwards, we move to a Survivor Durant first. And one of the things that I was most excited for at Battle of the Best, the auction.
The auction!
Everyone's given $75 in real American bucks. First off, you say straight off the gate, in Survivor, there's an auction. And normally at this auction, there will be some kind of advantage or immunity later on. And people will save their money to try to get these.
Yep.
Well, we're not doing that. We're getting rid of it now.
Right.
The first item auctioned off is an advantage. And that advantage goes to TSL. And that advantage, as we will later find out, is the blackmail advantage.
Yeah, brand new advantage.
And a powerful one at that.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to make sure that the things that we've seen in this season were fresh, new, and unpredictable, that these players who are considered the best found the appropriate ways to use these advantages, and that these new advantages can be used to their fullest potential. So with the blackmail advantage, I didn't want it to be something as silly as you have to vote for who I say you have to vote for. That'd be kind of redundant. At that point, just steal their vote and you cast the vote. So there's no point in having an advantage where it's just like you tell someone what to do. I wanted that player to have the option of obeying the user's wishes or going against it and facing a steep penalty. So with the blackmail advantage, Taylor will name a player, and that player will have to vote for who she wants. If they want to. If that player does not vote for who Taylor tells them to, then they'll have to incur the penalties that Taylor selects. On the list, there's like 4 or 5 different penalties, and she gets to choose 2 out of those 4 or 5 penalties. There are penalties like in the next tribal council that you could receive a vote, you'll have a vote against you. In the next immunity challenge, you cannot compete, lose all of your fire and shore tokens. You cannot buy things with fire tokens for the rest of the game. You cannot vote in the next 2 shifting vote topics. So there were many different types of penalties that Taylor could choose from. She would choose 2 of those, and if the person she used this on did not vote out the person she told them to vote out, they would take on those 2 penalties. So it's, what do? Do I give in to the blackmail and vote out who she says? Or are these 2 penalties that she chose, are those worth it to vote how I want to?
The next thing we see is another advantage, and this time we get a question. This advantage is specifically an advantage in the next immunity challenge. And Mason asked the question, would it offset my disadvantage? The answer is yes. And Ronnie gets it. Ronnie gets the advantage in the next immunity challenge, and I'll ask more about that advantage when we get to that immunity challenge so we can explain the whole challenge together. I think the highlight of the entire auction, though, is Kirk Carlson's reaction to Whataburger.
Oh yeah, it was great. He had a reaction on the advantage too. Like, I was like, the next item for bid is another advantage, and we see Kirk's jaw hit the ground. Like, what, I thought we did away with that already. And the whole purpose for having the challenge advantage in the auction was to offset the disadvantage given in the previous shifting vote topic. You know, it's kind of a no-brainer. Just vote for the person who has immunity, or vote for the challenge threat, the obvious challenge threat who's winning all the challenges at this point. Well, at this point in the game, you can now bid on a challenge advantage. It offsets what was so far maybe the most unfair shifting vote topic so far. So the players now have a way to get around that. Yes, after that, we do see Kirk Carlson be introduced to Whataburger, the legend that he's been hearing about this whole time, and he finally gets his own for 75 real American dollars. He throws it all on the table and he says, best 75 I've ever spent.
We see Nate get a disadvantage in the upcoming tribal council.
No, he doesn't. He gets a disadvantage in the upcoming immunity challenge.
That's right. We see some more Whataburgers, some shakes, and at the very end, we see Dylan coming out of left field with an idol clue, which was kind of funny. Oh, we're going to get rid of any advantages out of the gate. And then an idol clue at the very end. Was this just another troll?
Yeah, I wanted the players to bid heavily on all of the food, so I was hoping that if we told them and convinced them that we get the advantage out of the way at the top of the auction, that they will then spend some money on some food. And then we end the auction with an idle clue. Well, I didn't lie. I didn't troll. There wasn't another advantage. There was an idle clue. Maybe they forgot and didn't think that there would be something like that later on down the road. Maybe they held off for it. Who knows?
And with that, the auction concluded, and within minutes, we are beginning our immunity challenge.
I will also say that with the auction, what I thought was a funny idea to do with the auction that now I wish that we kind of did was troll the players even more. Like pull out a Whataburger bag or pull out a Chicken Express box, and they instantly know what it is. So it's $60 for the Chicken Express. They get up there, we open up the Whataburger bag or we open up the Chicken Express box, and inside is just a piece of paper that says, "You've been trolled." So, but it's just too cruel to do. I think people would have been mad to have paid $60 for nothing. Like, yeah, it's one thing if you have the item covered, because people don't know what it's going to be when it's covered. But you just lay it, flop it out on the tables. But I guess it's fair in this season, right? It's all about the trolls. But that, for me, was a troll that was a little too far.
I mean, from my point of view, giving them nothing is one thing. Giving them something completely different, though, would have been hilarious. Open up that Whataburger bag and,
it's a peanut butter sandwich or something. Or
I just spent $60 on a pack of crackers.
You and those crackers.
Cracker man!
So we did go to the next immunity challenge.
And this is where our two disadvantages and our advantages come into play. So in this challenge, our players had to balance a ball on a spoon and go and pick up bags of dominoes. Our two disadvantaged players had to go to the other end of their line of dominoes, touch the cone, and come back before they could start picking up their bags.
Not a horrible disadvantage.
Not horrible. It's doable. Our advantaged player, Ronnie, doesn't have to balance anything.
A very good advantage.
So, in this challenge, our players went out, grabbed their dominoes, came back, and then they had to balance the dominoes on a board in a line so where they could knock one over, and eventually the line would have one fall off the 2x4. Ronnie, with all of his advantages, did not win.
He did not win.
Victory came to Ryan.
Are we surprised?
No, it's Ryan.
No, it's Ryan. It's actually still unfair for the other players. I mean, it's Ryan.
The biggest disadvantage in an immunity challenge is playing against Ryan.
Exactly. Ronnie needed 2 more advantages to be on Ryan's level.
Going into an immunity challenge against Ryan is like going in a fight against Chuck Norris. You don't.
It's like being in a painting competition against Bob Ross.
Happy little accidents.
And it was no accident that Ryan won the next immunity challenge.
And what happened after this is a little surprising to me, honestly, because we see Dylan sharing his idol clue that he purchased.
Yeah, that is a little bit unusual because Dylan is starting to have these wishy-washy feelings about Gabe. Gabe is saying things to Dylan like, "My name isn't coming up, and I've got this idol," and he just took out his best friend, and Dylan's having these hesitancies about Gabe, and yet he still shares the idol clue with Gabe for some reason.
And apparently more than just Gabe hear about it, because we see a wave of people run straight to that area.
Yeah, apparently Dylan tells Mason the clue. I think he told Ronnie. I don't know who Dylan didn't tell. And it makes you wonder why he even bought the clue to then tell everyone.
I mean, we see Gabe, we see Kirk, we see Ronnie, we see Dylan, sweet old lady Jeremiah. We see everyone.
Everyone was digging in the ditch. It was the place to be.
It was the happening spot. And the most happening person was Gabe.
I guess so. You use one idol to get another back.
So Gabe, once again, the second episode in a row, has an idol.
Not good for the other players. We've seen what he did with the last one.
Don't worry, everybody. This one doesn't have a lock on it.
Yeah.
We get a little one-on-one with Gabe, and he talks about how, he's feeling pretty comfortable with Dylan. He thinks he's got a good thing going. And then we have a conversation with TSL about how she wants Ryan and Dylan in the final 3.
Yeah.
She talks to Dylan, and they find out that Gabe had told them both he wants them in the final 3.
Getting caught.
So, after this, though, even though it's looking like the decision might be at Gabe, it's not. And we see a lot of people are suggesting Mason as the person to vote out.
You know, the non-winners are still on their winner hunt. They are still on the same page, and they want to eliminate some winners even further. This thing that they started way back whenever Merge happened, and they were on the same page about the Cameron vote, and then they said after the Cameron vote, we're going to start knocking out winners. They've already gotten out Jacobs, now they took out Peyton, and now they want more blood, and they're seeking another winner to be gone. And it's looking like it's going to be Mason. Everyone is saying Mason.
But Mason's going to put up a fight. We see Mason talking to Ryan and suggesting Kirk. Ryan, who seems to have been everywhere all at once. Multiple Ryans. Multiple. I think she found a way to clone herself. Because she also talked to Ronnie and made a final 5 with him.
Yeah, like Ronnie and Ryan are scheming. Like they have a grand plan in place of the order of how people are going to go and how it's going to be them in the final 4, and they got some plans going on.
And then Dylan and Mason finally have time to catch up, have a spot of tea, and talk about voting out Ronnie.
Well, they didn't talk about voting out Ronnie. They just both agreed that Ronnie's in a good spot and his name never comes up, so it's something just to think about in the future.
We finally get some more in on Nate's point of view. Nate is planning ahead. He's talking a little bit about his strategy. He's talking about the other threats that are lurking out. He thinks that he's going to make himself as little a threat as possible and let everyone else be the big moves. Mason wants to keep fighting.
Mason makes deals with everyone you can think of. Everyone finds out about them.
Mason caught cheating. Well, not cheating. Gabe wants to take the easy vote this time around. And TSL, unsurprisingly, wants to keep Kirk.
Kirk's not going to go until she wants Kirk to go, she says.
Kirk is her shield. A giant 6'5" shield.
But do you think that that's just Taylor's thing, or is it, other people's thing too?
Kirk Carlson is this larger-than-life, 8-time player, multi-winner, founder of the entire shebang, basically. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, why go after the Durant small fry when we got the larger-than-life guy right here? Nobody's able to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
So the shield stays up.
So, Taylor says, the reason why Kirk isn't gone yet is because I don't want him to go. But do you think could also be because Ryan doesn't want him to go, Nate doesn't want him to go, Gabe doesn't want him to go? I mean, have we heard anyone within Taylor's alliance say, I want him to go, and Taylor back them off of Kirk?
No. She's always kind of pretended to agree in the situations where Kirk's brought up.
I think that everyone in her alliance right now wants a winner out more than Kirk. Like, they're more focused on Nate or Mason right now. And the only people that's throwing out Kirk's name is someone that's not even in her voting group. The people throwing out Kirk's name is Ronnie and Mason. Maybe she's combating Ronnie's vote, and Ronnie tries to save Mason, but no one's even going for it. And he realizes if he votes out Kirk, he's going to be ostracizing himself. And that takes us to Tribal, where we see Ronnie ostracize himself anyway.
Chaos Kirk himself appears, and he plays an idol early, showing he has one. Normally in Survivor, that would be considered a bad move. Letting everyone know, hey, I've got an idol, here it is, I'm playing it. Oh, I can't play it yet, I've got to wait until later. Oopsies. But I think there was some different logic.
Yeah, I mean, Mason believed that by Kirk showing the idol, it convinced other people to vote out Mason and to not vote for Kirk, when in reality, they were all going to vote out Mason anyway, sadly.
We see something a little different this time around. We see that the votes for Mason are shown earlier.
Yeah, we straight up see in the voting revealed that everyone is voting out Mason. And there's a couple reasons why I did that. The first is because we have this interesting twist at this tribal council, which was the season 6 twist. If you vote to give immunity to the player who you're voting out, you'll be eligible for an advantage. And I wanted to pay homage to the season 6 twist, because you know that this season is all about combining the past twists together, and we haven't done season 6 yet, so this was how to get the assassin twist into the game. And also to tempt people on going for an advantage by awarding immunity to the person who they just voted out. And a few people took the temptation: Ronnie, Mason, and Taylor. Because Kirk showed everyone that he had this idol, he wanted people to give him the information if he needed to really play the idol or not, and it worked. Because after all the votes were cast and it was time to put the ninja on someone, Ronnie revealed that Kirk isn't going to have any votes. So let's put the ninja on Kirk so he feels pressure to play his idol. And then Kirk read into that, oh, you're trying to get me to flesh out my idol, that I need to feel this pressure to play my idol. So you're telling me I don't have any votes. And Ronnie kind of slipped up and let the cat out of the bag that Kirk doesn't need to use his idol, and that's what happens. Kirk doesn't play the idol.
Kirk pockets his idol, but that's not the only immunity up for grabs at this point, because we get introduced to what this tribal shifting vote topic was: immunity. And it goes to rocks.
Yeah, down to rocks.
Down to rocks. Between Kirk and Mason.
And it's very interesting because Mason voted to give Kirk immunity. So Mason kind of did it to himself. I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, Mason's kind of in desperation mode and he needs all the advantages that he can get. His back's kind of up against the wall with the dynamics at camp. And it's a 50-50 rock draw. If Mason gets the correct rock, it's going to become a tie between Kirk and Gabe. And I think that Kirk goes in that moment. I think that more people are willing to try to save Gabe than Kirk, but who's to know what would happen? Either way, Mason would stay in the game, and Mason would be eligible to have an advantage. And that could really be the change that Mason needs in order to start having control of the game moving forward. However, I don't think Mason considered, maybe he did, or maybe he just considered he needs the advantage. But I don't think that Mason considered everyone that would have taken the gamble as well, like all of the other players who would have went for it. Like we see that Kirk did. Kirk sat there and said, I don't think Ryan's going to go for the advantage and give Mason immunity. Taylor won't do it. Gabe, he might. He's kind of chaotic. And even Kirk called it wrong, because we see that Taylor did vote to give Mason immunity. If Mason believes, and in his confessional he did believe that people were voting out Kirk, then if he believes most people are voting out Kirk, then he should know that people are going to vote to give Kirk immunity. So therefore he probably shouldn't do that. But maybe he considered it and he just got it wrong, or maybe him gambling to get the advantage outweighed anything else.
But we see Kirk get immunity, and our next member of our jury is Mason.
Yeah, I really wanted to also create uncertainty for the audience, because I showed to everyone that Mason is going here. Everyone's now like, oh crap, is Mason going here? Like, we see all these votes are for Mason. Now if they're all about to be canceled, if he's about to have immunity, who's going home? And that didn't end up happening, but I wanted to create some uncertainty for the audience. Ronnie kind of also changed the dynamics of his game, because Ronnie used tokens to move the ninja for Mason, and I think he did that because he felt bad. Nobody else was willing to move the ninja for Mason, so I think that's just a testament of Ronnie's kind heart, but his kind heart kind of ostracized him, because we see after he moved the ninja for Mason, Taylor and Dylan made eyes at each other like, what is he doing? And then after that, Ronnie pitches to put the ninja, that Mason put the ninja on Kirk. And so now they're like, what is he doing, like fighting so hard against Kirk? So it kind of puts a light on Ronnie that he didn't otherwise have. I mean, that was a crazy episode. I only got one question for you. Who, in your opinion, was the player of the episode?
But now, it's time to award our player of the episode.
To me, I got to give player of the episode to this episode to Ryan. Ryan, the immunity challenge winner, and the person who seemed to be on the forefront of most of the happenings going on. Ryan was in nobody's lips, but was in almost every conversation. Ryan spoke to nearly every single person, if not every single person, during this round. Ryan was at the forefront of planning, plotting, and staging. I think that's a new look for Ryan that Survivor Durant hadn't previously seen. And we obviously see that this works.
Yeah, I like that. I agree with that. I think that for me, it would come down to either Dylan or Ryan being player of the episode. You know, they were both making plans for the future of how they can go deeper. We see Taylor and Dylan scheme up and make plans of how they can make it to 5 and 4. And we also see Ronnie and Ryan making plans of how they can make it deeper, like to 5 and 4. But the only difference is Ryan did get her second individual immunity win in this episode, even with another player having an advantage over her. And she bought those donuts. I mean, that's a massive play in the auction. So I agree with you. Ryan, player of the episode, congratulations. We did it. Thank you so much for sticking around and getting through this massive Behind the Mind recap of episodes 6 and 7. And we have only one Behind the Mind left to do, episode 8 next week.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We're now going to go into the 1 year later segment with this week's special guest. So I'm here with the guest of this week's 1 year later segment, Peyton Brewer. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man.
It looks like you have a long reach with your arms too, and you were able to pull the knife out of your back. Because I don't see it back there anymore, so it looks like you're doing pretty good.
Yep, I've healed up. I'm doing good now.
That's good to hear. So what has your life been like since Survivor's ended? You know, it's been like a year and a half since the ending of Battle of the Best. What have you been doing?
I've just been living my life with Jesus every step of the way, like hanging out with friends and different serving the community and my church and just different stuff, and working at the sporting goods store and enjoying life, enjoying where God's taking me.
Where is he taking you currently?
Man, I don't know where he's taking me, but I know he's got something for me, and I'm just waiting for him and waiting for that door to open up, and just being patient and just growing deeper with him every day. Trusting him that even though I don't know where he's taking me, I know he's got something for me. I'm just enjoying it.
So not knowing where you're going, but being joyful when you go.
Yeah, tomorrow's never granted, and so you got to live every day grateful for what he has given you today. Of course, I fell and got away from him and lived lukewarm and lived, where I'd go to church on Sunday and then go back to the world on Monday. But a little over 2 years ago, I fully just gave my life to him. I said, God, I'm done halfway living life. Like, I still feel this emptiness in my heart going from Sunday, church, to the world on Monday, and I want to live my life fully for you every single day, the rest of my life. Since that point, God has really, really changed me in the man that I've become, and like the man that he is, still mending me and shaping me into. Of course, I've got to take that leap of faith, and when he opens that door, I've got to walk through it.
It sounds like you have like a real close relationship with the Lord. How old were you when that started?
When I felt like giving my life was when I was 11. Before I got saved, I dealt with like really bad sleep paralysis, and I would see all kinds of crazy stuff. Like, I'd see floating heads and just like demonic looking stuff in my room, and like I was terrified. I was terrified of demons. I was terrified of dying and not going to heaven, even though I grew up in church. Like, I grew up knowing Jesus and that heaven's real, and there's a heaven and a hell. When I got saved, that night, I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel like I was good enough to be saved. I didn't feel that God would even take me in, like I would be even welcomed, that I would still be going to hell. And fear was really over me, and my dad came and he prayed for me, and I went to bed, and come that next night, and the same thing happened, and just felt the same way. And he prayed for me again and told me, he's like, hey, you are saved. Like, you just need to know it. Like, you need to know Jesus did do this for you. He did all that. He died on the cross for you, and he still lives inside you. He's with you right now. Even when you go to sleep, he's with you. And you come that last night, the third night, I just had this peace. I had this overwhelming peace that I can go to sleep without being afraid of what I dream. I had a dream, and I still remember it to this day. So I was in this dark room, and I was overlooking a rat-looking, ugly, kind of demonic figure. I was overlooking it in the corner, and I wasn't scared of it. I was just like trying to figure out what it was. I was like, what is this thing? And it was like trembled in the corner. It was curled up in a ball, and at first I thought he was terrified of me, like he was looking at me, whatever that thing was, and it was scared of me. But then I realized after I looked into its eyes more that it was looking over my shoulder and not looking at me. And as I was looking at its eyes, and he was shivering, or it, whatever it was shivering and looking over my shoulder, I see this light over my shoulder, and I turn around, and it was Jesus, and he was just standing there, and he had heaven behind him and his angels, and I wasn't even really worried about that behind there. I was just transfixed on his presence, and just being able to see that warm smile that he had. Like, I can't explain how beautiful and like loving his smile was, like how much warmth and love it filled me with. And he just didn't even say a word. He just had his hand out. He had his hand out, and you could see the hole straight through his hand where the nails had nailed him into the cross. It just felt like time didn't even exist. Like, maybe I was there for 2 minutes, and maybe I was there for 2 years. Like, time didn't exist. And I reached up and I grabbed his hand, and once I grabbed his hand, I woke up, and I never had that sleep paralysis ever again. My little brother slept in the room next to me, and him and my room kind of connected. Like, he would sleepwalk and stuff, but he started having like really bad like screaming in his sleep, and he would like sleepwalk and throw things around. And like one night he didn't even say anything. He just got out of his bed, and he just walked over to me and just was looking at me. Like, didn't even say a word, was just standing over my bed and looking at me. And that terrified me. I was like 11 years old, and I just flipped the covers over my head and kind of say a prayer and just try to go to sleep. And then one night, because this went on for a while. I don't know how long it went for, but one night I remember, my brother, he got up and he started like throwing stuff around in his room. He was just screaming like bloody murder, like Peyton, and like the one name he would say would be my name. He would say, Peyton, they're after me. Like, I have an older brother. I have my mom and dad in the next room, like by me. He could have been saying anyone's name, but he was saying mine. That's not a coincidence. Whatever evil spirit that was oppressing me kind of latched over to him and was trying to get to me through him. Instead of me flipping the covers over and trying to go back to sleep, man, it was just like a switch hitting me. I didn't know. I couldn't explain what I was doing when I was 11 years old, but I just started speaking the name of Jesus. I was saying, these demons, leave my brother in the name of Jesus. Like, I say, in the mighty name of Jesus, you must leave. You must leave him now and never come back. And I started saying this stuff, and I don't know how long the prayer went. Once I stopped praying, I just kind of heard his room get quiet, and I heard him lay down in bed, and he never had that sleep screaming or anything like that. He would sleepwalk a little bit, but he would never sleepwalk and come look at me. God's real, and so is the enemy. We just need to wake up and see the truth. Where's your heart? Like, where is it set at? Is it set with the world? Or do you need to redirect your life or commit your life to him? That's how life is. We're not perfect, but he was. He was willing to lay down his life, his perfect life, for us, this sinner that doesn't deserve to be saved. But he loved us so much that he took it all. He is not about all religion. He hates religion. It's not a religion. Like, being a Christian is not a religion.
Right.
It's a relationship.
Right.
He wants to know you. He wants to know how you're feeling. Like, give all your worries to me. All your anxiety to me, because I care for you. That's ultimately what it all comes down to.
That's really good. Switching gears a little bit, you have obviously grown and matured in the faith, but you also have changed a pace in life. You now have a new house.
Yeah. Dude, I actually live really close to here.
Really?
4th Street, yeah.
You're my neighbor?
Yeah, really close.
I thought that you moved to like Caddo or something, or...
No, I actually have been living with my brother in Caddo till my house is getting finished up. It's supposed to be finished tomorrow, so I should be moving in tomorrow.
It's been a year and a half since you played Survivor Durant, and so it's probably going to be nearly impossible for you to remember what happened during the game.
I think, realizing when I played, there was some mistakes I made. I think I got caught up into too much of having fun instead of like trying to really win.
Well, there's nothing wrong with having fun.
Yeah.
And another really cool thing was that you never once went to tribal council before the merge.
Yeah.
So that was neat, but you didn't have a vote.
No.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
You played the risky move and you gambled your vote. You called it wrong. You bet that Cameron would be the first one voted out, not Abby. So you lost your vote there. But I do respect the fact that you are a risk taker, which everyone has to be a risk taker in some fashion in the game of Survivor. It's unavoidable. You either take little risks, minor risks, or you take major risks. So you can't dodge it. You're taking risks in Survivor. It's just how big of a risk are you taking?
Yeah.
And with that one, you did take a kind of a large risk there. You bet your entire vote, and it didn't pay off that time.
No.
But you're also responsible for one of the biggest moves in all of Survivor Durant's history. Back in Season 6, Part 2, the game that you won, you pulled off a wild move with 2 different advantages. The Wombo Combo. You stole someone's vote and baited their best friend into using an idol to save them, but you also used the idol nullifier to block that idol from being played on that person, voting them out of the game. Now, you are a man of taste. You are a man that loves big moves.
Mm-hmm.
And now we see Gabe make a really big move, but this time it's at your expense.
Yeah. So
being the man that respects big moves, do you respect the move?
I respect it, man. Oh, how the turntables, that saying. Man, watching that, realizing that I was going home either way because I was such a big threat. I was so good at everything. I was so impressive. I'm just being sarcastic, but yeah, watching him, it felt like a bigger, like a dagger, really like my number one ally that I trusted, and that was, my fault. And I said that I wasn't going to have someone that I truly trusted, like 100%. And I don't know why, but I'm just this loyal. I'm a loyal guy. And whoever I talk to and I stick to at the start, and we build a trust with, like, I'm really bad about that, just gaining my trust too quick. And, it didn't pay off. He ended up doing what he thought was best.
Well, it also didn't help you, like the fact that you partnered with one of the most loyal people in all of Survivor Durant. Well, until that point, he was known as one of the most loyal people. Gabe was known for his loyalty.
Yeah.
And then he pulled off one of the craziest, most unloyal moves we've ever seen.
Yeah.
So how were you to know the person that you decided to partner up with would end up doing that?
That's Survivor.
That's Survivor for you.
And, you don't know what's going to happen to you.
You know, Peyton, we get messages all the time from fans of this series through Morse code. And one of the questions that we get all the time involves you. They want to know, Peyton, after getting to play as many times as you had, I think you got to play like 4 times.
Yeah.
And seeing your game evolve, what is the big lesson that you can take away from Survivor Durant?
Believing in yourself and not giving up.
I don't think placement is a measurement of how well you did in the game.
Yeah.
I don't. And the first time that you played, you might not have necessarily did anything, but have been a vote for Ronnie and Nate. You know, like you might not have made a play at all. You might have just said, whatever you need, Captain, aye. But then you go out and you play Assassin's Creed, and you might have been the 4th person voted out or whatever, but you might have been a better player because you didn't take anyone's lip. You made moves that benefited Peyton, not someone else.
You know, the game that I won felt like there was a chip on my shoulder. Like, I was like, okay, I want to show people that I can win this game. Anything is possible if you set your mind to it. It was fate.
And at the end of the day, Dustin turned out to be a more loyal partner than Gabe.
Yeah, he did.
Any advice for future Survivor Durant players that you want to give?
Go with your gut. Because usually if you go with your gut, it's always, most of the time, right. And believe in yourself. Believe that you can do it. You can. It doesn't matter how old or what sex you are or anything like that. You can do it just as good as I did, or even better. You don't always win. That's part of Survivor. You don't always win. If you win Survivor once, or if you even get to the finale of Survivor and you get runner-up or whatever, like be proud of yourself to make it that far. You know, believe in yourself and you can do it.
So believe in yourself. Go with your gut. Don't trust Gabe.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here, Peyton, and going behind the mind with us.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
It is that time once again for the 1 year later segment. This time, Mason Harrell, what's up?
Hey, what's up, everybody?
1 year later, Mason, you're still alive. You're still kicking. I don't know how, since you haven't gotten to play a Survivor game this long.
No, yeah, it's been since Battle of the Best. I have not played a Survivor game.
But you're alive, you're thriving. What's new in your life?
Yeah, I'm here. To be honest, there's really not a whole lot that's new. Back when we were playing Battle of the Best, I had just started and just finished actually my first semester of Doctor of Physical Therapy school. And I am currently at the end of the 5th semester. I've got 1 more to go, so I will be graduating in December. May and I are still happily married. We just had our 2-year anniversary on July 10th, and we are going strong. No kids just yet. We are trying our best to wait until we are out of school, or at least until I'm out of school. So who knows what God holds for that in our future as far as kids. We both know that we want kids and have prayed about it a lot, and know that that's, you know, where he's leading us. More than likely, probably 3 to 4 years from now, since Melissa has 2 years of school left.
What do you plan on doing after you graduate?
Well, the first thing is I will have about a month and a half to study for the big test that I have to take. It's a 225 question test that I'll take at the end of January, and that is to become a fully licensed PT. So I'll have a bit of a period there right after Christmas where I'll be kind of hitting the books really hard and studying, and then finding a job somewhere. I've already been in talks with a few different places, and I plan to talk with plenty of more and figure out, you know, where is best for me and move on from there. Melissa will start PTA school in January if she gets in, which we should find out here in about a month or 2 if she's in or not.
And while you don't have any kids yet, you do have a zoo. Tell us about your fur babies.
So we do have 4 fur babies. We have 1 dog and 3 cats.
So, you know, you've been around with Survivor Durant for a long time, have been in the community since season 3. You've helped make a lot of games as well. What would you say was the coolest moment that you've ever gotten to witness when it comes to Survivor Durant?
Man, there's been a lot of cool ones. Obviously, I'm nostalgic about my season that I won, season 4, just getting to win the final 5 and final 4 immunities were highlights for me, and then obviously winning the game, getting there with Nate as a final 2, because we had kind of had a deal prior to season 3, our first season, that we were going to get to the end of a game together. We didn't know when it was going to happen, but we were going to do it. And so we kind of just had this like spoken but unspoken deal, and we got to do it that time. And so that was a highlight, and it was even better that he got to win the next season, season 5. That was an amazing moment. I think watching Peyton pull off the idol nullifier Steal a vote combo was probably the craziest moment, just because so many things had to go correct in order for that to happen, and he was able to piece it all together fully by himself. And so I was really proud of him in that moment.
You know, you've also got to witness a lot of the evolution of Survivor Durant.
Mm-hmm.
In the 5th season, we introduced tokens into the game, and it started out as a simple token that you give to Pryor, Charon, the fairy,
Mm-hmm.
and take you to the underworld. And now, in Survivor Durant's peak moment, we see tokens are more important than ever. So much so that there's kind of a division between the tokens, fire tokens and chore tokens, and how you can spend them, and them representing the chores that you've done into the game. So going from point A to point B, we can also see that's how Survivor Durant, holistically, how it has evolved. And what is just your thoughts of seeing how Survivor Durant has gone from this backdoor game to now an LRG, and just like the tokens, how it's itself evolved?
Yeah, so the game has evolved in so many ways. Originally, the first 3 seasons, we were more of a fundraiser for missions outlet. That has kind of been our foundation and the reason why the game exists in the first place. That was Cheston's original idea behind it. While we're not necessarily a fundraiser anymore, we still want to see people come to know Jesus and get to hear Jesus, at least, even if they don't come to know him, and still have fun and play an amazing LRG all at the same time. As far as the tokens go, we definitely have evolved those. Like Cheston said, originally, you finding a token, all it meant was that if you find a token and you get voted out, you get to go to Edge of Extinction. It has now come to the point where there is a whole currency and a whole ecosystem around these coins. That is honestly something that I wish the real show would kind of bring back. I think that was a good step in the right direction that they have kind of abandoned at this point, but who knows, maybe we'll see it again. But we really like it, and I think what it does for the game is great, because for one thing, the chore tokens are a good way in a LRG to represent you actually doing the surviving part, going and finding coconuts, going and getting your water, doing these various things, building your shelter, all of those types of things. So I liked that aspect of it. You got to see all kinds of cool things happen with fire tokens in this season of Battle of the Best. That I think that's going to continue to evolve as well.
One other thing that you got to do that was pretty cool was help create the Mystery Island theme and twist of Season 5. And then yourself, you did go to Mystery Island. Just talk about the emotions and what was going through your mind to sort of come full circle of going to a place that was your baby.
So I'm glad you asked this, because there's actually something really funny that I was hoping to get a chance to explain with this. So just for some background, Cheston and I created Mystery Island for Season 5, Survivor Durant Mystery Island, appropriately titled. And back then, the way that Mystery Island worked was when someone would get sent to Mystery Island, they did not know if they were going to Island of the Idols, Ghost Island, or Exile Island. Was there any others, or that was the 3, right?
That was the 3.
I think that was the 3.
Extinction Island and Redemption.
Yeah,
Island
we had
were
Extinction
also
and Redemption that we would tell people, hey, you're going to Mystery Island, after they got voted out. And they obviously didn't know what it was until they got there. Creating that was a cool homage to the show and getting to kind of feature all of those different islands in that season. And I think it kept people on their toes the whole game, because somebody would come back from Mystery Island and they would be like, guys, Mystery Island is Island of the Idols. You're going to get a lesson from Mason and Cheston on whatever. And then the next person would come back and be like, guys, Mystery Island is Ghost Island. I got to flip over a cup to see if there was an advantage. And they were just getting all these different things, and so they never really knew what it was, and that was kind of how we wanted it to be.
We also wanted people to go back with conflicting stories to cause
exactly
tension
yeah.
between
Yeah, because anytime that you hear a conflicting story, such as you will see with, or maybe you have seen between Cameron and Nate coming back from Island of the Ages / Mystery Island, it immediately tells everybody, hey, there's something up here. There's conflicting stories. But getting to go to Mystery Island in Battle of the Best, I didn't honestly know what was happening. I had a suspicion after Peyton coming to our losing camp for Mystery Island that anytime that Mystery Island was in play, it was going to be something different other than our original islands. But I did not know what. I certainly didn't expect Tribal Council. And truthfully, here was the funny part. You can kind of hear it in my voice a little bit if you go back and watch this clip. But when we're walking, we're getting up to like Tribal Council area. And the closer we're getting, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go to Tribal. I'm going to be there when they vote. They're all going to vote me out. And Cheston tells me as we're walking, Mystery Island is Tribal Council, and I'm sitting there about to crap myself like, oh my god, this is where I leave the game. I've made a horrible mistake. I should have never volunteered for this. You hear me say, okay, like that, like it comes out a little shaky. He says, and if you're at Tribal Council, you have to vote. And so I say, okay, and he takes me over there, and you hear me ask the question, so I'm voting before they even get here. And he says yes, and that was when I knew, okay, good, I'm safe, because he wouldn't have me vote beforehand if I'm going to like actually be in Tribal and have a chance to go home. But I just knew, I was like, they're just all going to vote me out if they just show up and I'm here.
Well, that's good.
So I was really worried about that.
That gives me my jollies. I definitely live off of the anxiety of others. Another thing that we see is that you do get to participate in the first ever and only Survivor Durant auction, and that was your first time participating in an auction. That was pretty cool. I have to ask, what was going through your mind to not buy anything at the auction?
Truthfully, what was going through my mind was the fact that I had not eaten that whole time, and I was honestly really proud of that. I still felt like I was going good and going strong, and I knew I was at a place in the game after Peyton leaving the previous vote where I knew that more than likely I was going to be on the chopping block, especially because that vote that Peyton goes home, the shifting vote topic was, who do you want to give a disadvantage? And they gave it to me, so obviously, you know, that was a telegraph of, I'm in trouble, I need to save my money for some type of advantage. And so I never once thought about buying any of the food because I was like, I'm going to need all of this money for whatever the advantage is.
Did you bid on the challenge advantage?
I did. I bid on it, and I remember, I want to say Dylan, I think, or somebody, I couldn't remember.
Ronnie ended up with the advantage.
Dylan got an idle clue or something like that. I can't remember. I had a suspicion that Dylan would tell me the idle clue, so I was like, okay, I'm not going to bid on that. And he did. He did tell me the idle clue. That was a good decision to not bid on that because I basically got that for free. I truthfully, I don't remember why I didn't bid on the advantage. Maybe it was because Ronnie was bidding on it, and Ronnie was my closest ally in the game, and so maybe I didn't want to take that away from him, or maybe if I felt, there may have been something where I could have possibly felt like, oh, well, people aren't going to see me as a threat because I've got a disadvantage in this challenge already. I truthfully don't remember because it's been a long time since then, and I was very food deprived. And truthfully, after looking back on it, I do honestly just kind of wish that I would have gotten some food because it may have helped me think a little more clearly that round and potentially somehow helped me to get out of it. And I know I was close on the immunity, even despite the disadvantage. I remember when Ryan won it, I already had about 2/3 of my dominoes set up. So. And
then we see that you ultimately go home because you draw the wrong rock. Mm-hmm. It was so close, 50-50 split, coming down to the shifting vote topic of who do you want to have immunity. Had the shoe been on the other foot and Kirk had drawn the wrong rock, he would have left the game. Then what would have happened next?
In my mind, what I think would have happened next was I think that Nate would have swapped to Ronnie and I's side. I don't know that necessarily if Gabe would have or not, but that's where I thought it could go if Kirk went on that vote. And Nate has since told me that if Kirk did go on that vote, that's more than likely what he would have done. It's very possible that we could have seen a shakeup. I think with Kirk gone, it severely weakens Taylor and Ryan, and I think more than likely one of them would have gone next. But there's really no telling with Dylan or Gabe. Dylan and Gabe were so out of nowhere with, I think, their thought processes and who they were working with. I don't even know if they knew or realized what was going on and who they were giving their power to, but it seems like there could have been some chaos that next round had Kirk went home. It almost could have been anybody.
Would have been exciting to see for sure. You know, Mason, we get smoke signals all the time from fans of this show, and the one that we've been getting consistently comes from Chief Flipcoin Rockdraw. And he wants to know, do you still stay awake at night thinking about why Gabe did Peyton so dirty?
Honestly, I still do. Yeah, I still do. I don't stay awake about it, but I still wonder. I still do wonder why somebody that was essentially your biggest ally that you would do that to. And I've talked to Peyton about it many times. I've talked to Gabe about it a couple of times. He wanted to play the thing. It was a cool thing that Cheston had come up with, and the only person that he felt like it would work on was Peyton. And if that is the case, then props to him because it worked. But just because you can pull something over on someone doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right move. And I think in Gabe's case, that was the wrong move, getting rid of somebody that was probably never going to write his name down.
Maybe he just did it for the memes.
Maybe.
Mason, thank you so much for your time. We're now going to go into another special segment that I like to call Deleted Scenes, where we watch deleted scenes.
Yeah. We like those.
I do feel like there's lots of duos right now that are popping up in there. I think like the girls have a ton of agency right now. The girls are definitely camera on each other. Yeah, so we're just trying to figure that they can flow between anybody. They can talk about it. Yeah, oh yeah. We're talking about the girls. Like he's just saying, talk about duos, Mom. Yeah. They have the most agency right now. They talk to everybody here. There's nobody that ices the girls out at all. Everybody's open. I feel like they're the ones transmitting all the info right now. I don't know if that's the same. No, it definitely comes across that way. Yeah. So.
What's your thought on that crazy merge tribal where Jake is left?
Oh goodness. I kind of liked it. They're kind of like I said early on, that pulled Dylan closer to my side. I think me and him may try to pull off a big move tonight. I'm gonna have to talk to him to see if he's down. It was a clean way to no one get blown their hands and for him to go out. So and it makes you a little anxious. Okay, thank you. It makes you a little bit anxious for the next vote because how many moves do I need to have voted ahead, in my brain. How many moves people can get ahead on their end, so it makes you a little anxious for sure.
Gabe, and Kirk. Yes. We have 6 for Peyton. Mason and Peyton should be the other 3 votes for Kirk.
So they did tell me about it, but he voted literally whatever we want because he knows where his position's at.
Okay.
So
did you tell him, Peyton?
I'm just gonna run that by y'all first because I didn't want to let that information out without everybody being down.
I don't think it matters either way. I think if you want him to not be on the wrong side of the vote, and we want to ice out Mason like that, and that's fine. That'll make Mason really stressed though.
I think it traveled.
Do we want that?
I think it traveled before votes. Right before the vote happens, I'm gonna look at both of them. Tell them
Mason do.
Yeah. Because Mason just told me that he trusts me more than.
That's fine. Yeah, you can do that.
You can take that at face value.
Well, yeah, but if you want to do that for your game, then that's totally fine.
That makes sense to do because then we can act like it was a last minute decision versus me.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fair.
He's just in the bushes.
Should I check with them real quick?
Yeah.
You got it? I got it.
It's okay. They're just too far. I don't want to interrupt if they're. Oh, never mind. They're idle hunting. I'm gonna go.
Yeah, he does. He scares the crap out of me. I'm just so worried about that. I think he's swinging Nate with us and just go forward. Next to him. Yeah. Let's do it. I don't have much of an option other than to just trust what everybody is telling me is correct because I mean I can play some voodoo. That's about all I got. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's all you can do. But I guess we'll wait and see. Did you just find something right there? I don't think so, no.
What is it? Oh, hey. Coin.
Like, as in, give me the coin.
You have to say it like Scooby-Doo.
Going.
Mason, I need that back. You didn't say it right.
Like the Mummy. I used to watch that. I love the Scooby-Doo.
Do you want to talk?
Yeah.
I never know how to start this conversation.
No, it's okay. I don't think anybody takes it wrong just saying, hey, let's go find it.
I say that he's just like trying to find somebody to take him. Yeah.
I just feel bad because he's not like in the strategic element of it. He's kind of just like telling me what to do, but I never like telling somebody what to do.
So who's contingency then? Behind.
I don't feel so bad.
I'm so glad you said that.
I think the three of us are in a complete agreement there.
Oh my gosh.
We were literally just discussing.
Relief.
Yeah.
Are we saying you need to stay away from him? Or are you saying?
No, I don't think we need to.
What we're saying.
Yeah.
Oh, no. There's one down there. It's the thing. I think if it's the same one, it's like
Coin.
today, tomorrow.
No, it's a new one.
Dang it, I didn't
it's
answer
coin.
the last one.
I
knew it.
Coin.
Yeah, I think so. I know so. I literally, yeah. Where did Dylan go? So here's the thing. I don't know where Dylan went. Yeah. It's gonna be underneath a tree somewhere in here. It's gotta be. We've looked everywhere else, under every other tree. I thought the clue for this was that you could see it from the waterway. It's just right there. I don't know how we didn't see that. We're not looking for him anymore. Yeah, that's true. So, I thought we also heard in the Fiddlefoot riddle that you could see it from the water. Can you? 100%. You have to be able to see it from the water. Because of this hill, you cannot see that. Oh, wait, I'm mixing up water and our peace pipe. No. Sorry. Yeah, so this makes sense. It's gotta be somewhere near here.
I pulled Ryan and Dylan aside, who are my closest allies as of right now, at least the ones that I think I can beat or I have a better chance at beating. And I said, listen guys, like, I think that the final three needs to be us three because we can't bring one of the boys that have friends on the jury and we can't bring one of the winners to the end. And the only three neutral people that are left are me, Ryan and Dylan, and so we locked in a final 3. Whether or not they'll stick to it, I don't know, but that is my ideal final 3.
So I know if I move forward that Dylan had a clue about an idol hidden around here. It's within shot of the water well, which is what I received. I have a feeling somebody found it, but I want to just like clarify that, because to me it seems like it would have been in one of these 2 holes right here. And if I went to the bathroom, they probably got in there and snatched it up real quick. So Dylan has it. So I think Dylan has like a few advantages. So if somebody's got power, I gotta either go to it or do something else. I got an idol in my pocket too.